everyone. This is The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Frank Morano. Do you follow the World Cup? Are you up on the World Cup at all? You know, it's funny. I've always noticed and noted this about the World Cup. America, by and large, is not that big of a soccer country. I know there was a little bit of a resurgence around the time that Pele played, at least not as a spectator sport. America's very into soccer as a participatory sport, but not as much as a spectator sport. When it comes to spectator sports, America is all about football. America is all about basketball. America is all about baseball. America is all about NASCAR, believe it or not. Very big following for NASCAR in the United States. Soccer, not so much. The exception to that, of course, is the World Cup. I've noticed whenever the World Cup is in town, I notice the same thing. Now, maybe it'll be different the next time around because we're now in an era where most people don't show up to go to their offices and work in person to begin with. But what I've noticed with the World Cup is in office after office, especially men, but not exclusively, especially young men, but not exclusively, they view the World Cup as an opportunity, and tell me if you've noticed this, they view it as an opportunity to not work in the middle of the day. I would go and, look, I've always had odd hours working either early mornings or late nights, but I would sometimes see in offices that I was working in, whenever the World Cup comes around, this collection of people that for the rest of the year and for the other 3.5 years couldn't care less about about soccer. They're all glued to the World Cup. You go into any bar, any sports bar in the middle of the day, and you see it's packed. It's packed. They're all watching Brazil take on Mexico in the World Cup. I'm looking around. It's 3 o'clock in the middle of the afternoon. I'm thinking, why is no one working? I know why I'm not working, because I finished work 6 hours ago. Why is no one else here at work? Is somehow the World Cup a license to play hooky from your job? It must be. So the World Cup seems to be, and again, maybe it'll be a different situation for 2020, the next time around, because the issue of working from an office seems to be much less pronounced these days. But it got me thinking, the next time that they're announcing host cities for the World Cup is going to be in the year 2026. The 2026 World Cup, and so I guess, did the 2022 World Cup already happen? Is it over? Does anybody know? Nobody knows. Nobody cares. Oh, it's in November. Okay, so that's when you'll see everybody. That's when you'll see everybody skipping work if they're working. Again, like I said, it might be different this year because everybody's in a work from home mode. But I am curious to see if all these sports bars are going to be filled to the brim with all these nouveau soccer fans because of their newfound interest in the World Cup. But on Thursday, we are going to learn which cities are going to be hosting the 2026 World Cup. It has been exactly 4 years since FIFA, the governing body of soccer, awarded the world's most popular sporting event to North America. Ever since, 24 cities across the United States, Canada, and Mexico have all been preparing and politicking like crazy, trying to prove themselves worthy of hosting these matches. So on Thursday at 5 p.m., FIFA is going to pick anywhere between 16 and 19 cities, including 10 to 12 cities right here in the United States of America. Happy Flag Day, right? Any better way to celebrate Flag Day, Flag Week, than to have some American cities selected to host the World Cup? And they're going to leave the other cities feeling as if this agonizingly thorough, delayed multiple times process was all for naught. See, in Mexico, FIFA's decision is a foregone conclusion. We're all assuming that they're going to pick Mexico City, they're going to pick Guadalajara, and they're going to pick Monterrey. They're going to host a combined 10 games down south in Mexico. Another 10 are going to be played in Canada, where it looks like Toronto's going to get some games, looks like Vancouver's going to get some games, and Edmonton is the third candidate. And the North American Bid Committee originally proposed that there would be 3 host cities north of the border and 10 in the United States. But there have now been some rumblings that FIFA could select an 11th U.S. city or even a 12th, perhaps at the expense of the less glamorous Edmonton. So with 4 U.S. cities considered locks and a few more shoring up their status in recent months, that leaves 12, count them, 12, dirty dozen, 12 American cities, 12 American contenders for either 6 or 7 spots in the 2026 World Cup rotation. That's according to what's being reported, conversations with people that are familiar with the process and previously reported information. Now, here's how the race looks. I'm going to tell you, but first, here's what I want to know. World Cup's a big deal. People watch this not only all over the country, but literally all over the world. Do you want the World Cup in your city? And in some ways, it reminds me of the conversation that we had over the Olympics. And in some ways, it reminds me of the conversation we'd had over the World's Fair. And it is a little different than both of those issues, especially the Olympics, because with the Olympics, usually host cities, have to build all sorts of infrastructure, including an Olympic stadium, to host their part of the Olympic Games, whereas the World Cup, that's not necessarily the case. They generally use existing stadia. And it's also different because it's a shorter amount of time. You're dealing with a game or two, so basically a day or two, not weeks of bringing the city to a standstill. But before I tell you what cities are going to be competing for the World Cup, my question for you is very simple. 800-848-WABC. 800-848-9222. Would you want the World Cup in your city? Why or why not? Now, here are the cities that are the dozen contenders for the 6 or 7 American spots for the 2026 World Cup rotation. Number 1 is New York and New Jersey, and that's an important distinction when I say New York and New Jersey, because the game would probably be at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. So they wouldn't be snarling midtown traffic. They wouldn't be disrupting my commute to work. And my attitude is, look, if it's going to take place in New Jersey, so be it. It doesn't disrupt my way of life. Maybe it's a nice way for New Jersey to kind of get on the international stage, prove itself to the rest of the world. So New York and New Jersey, number 1. Number 2, Dallas and Arlington at AT&T Stadium. That's where the Dallas Cowboys play, I believe. Number 3, Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. This is one of the few NFL stadiums that regularly host soccer matches, so you'd think they'd be in a pretty good position. Los Angeles at the SoFi Stadium. Now, this is a city that has hosted World Cup games before. In fact, I think they actually hosted the finals back in 1994, which ended, and I don't even care about spectator soccer, it ended in a very competitive shootout for the finals there, Los Angeles SoFi Stadium. This is, a lot of people describe Los Angeles as an ideal city, but with 2 less than ideal stadiums. That's why Los Angeles' status as a favorite to host the U.S. opener has gotten kind of shaky. It's got the ritzy SoFi Stadium with just about every imaginable amenity, but there's, quite frankly, not enough space on the field for soccer. It has the Rose Bowl, which is steeped in history, but is fairly bare bones. Then you got Philadelphia, Lincoln Financial Field, San Francisco/Santa Clara, Houston, or as we New Yorkers call it, Houston, Seattle. So those are the cities that are considered to be heavy favorites. Seattle, Houston, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Atlanta, New York/New Jersey, and Dallas/Arlington. So if you're in one of those cities, do you care if you get the World Cup or not? Are you happy to have it? Are you happy for the economic activity? Are you happy for the visitors? Do you think you're going to make a bundle of money renting out one of the rooms in your house through Airbnb? Do you want it? Do you not want it, or do you not care? 800-848-WABC. That's 800-848-9222. Now, here are the other cities that are in contention. Miami, Hard Rock Stadium. Now, Miami just did a very interesting job hosting the Formula One race out there. And I watched a little bit of that Formula One race, and I thought they did a good job. I thought they did a good job as a city putting their best foot forward as a city. You have Baltimore/Washington, D.C., another finalist. These are the cities that are on the World Cup bubble. And quite frankly, I'd be surprised if these cities got one. But you have Kansas City. That's a city which is lobbying very aggressively to get this World Cup situation. Then you have, in addition, Denver. Actually, that's more of a long shot. Nashville is on the bubble. Boston, Foxborough, Gillette Stadium. I think that's where the Patriots play. They're on the bubble. Nashville. Then here are the cities that are long shots, but they all want it. Denver, Orlando, Cincinnati. Now, when it comes to what factors they consider dozens of factors. Hotels, mass transit, the willingness to commit public funds to events. And that's where if I'm living in one of these cities, I don't really want to commit public funds. Like if you're in New York or New Jersey or whatever. I mean, look, it's different if you're in Cincinnati or in Denver because maybe you need something, or Nashville. Maybe you need something like the World Cup to put your town on the map. But I wouldn't really want, as a taxpayer, to put in taxpayer money to host this soccer tournament, which I barely care about. I mean, I get that it's an international event. I get it's a way to showcase your city on an international stage. But I don't know about you. It does nothing for me. My attitude is kind of shoulder shrug. It's great. You know, if it gets people excited, if people want to go, if it's good for the city, if it creates economic activity. But instead, it's looking to me like another Buffalo Bills situation, a money grab for sports, where the taxpayers have to foot the bill for FIFA.